Lions TV, award-winning Lions TV, shall I just add. I know you all know by now, but I seriously can't believe it, so I'm going to go on about probably for the whole summer. This is going to be a Roundup show. Apologies in advance for the set. I thought we was done, but it doesn't look like we are. The gaffer, as promised, has started the mass cull in and around the den, having a good clear out. And in this show, we're going to cover that, as well as Alex Pearce signing on a permanent, and some transfer rumours. Let's start out. I'm spitting everywhere with Lee Gregory. Oh, mate, this was a tough one. Lee Gregory, after 5 long years at the club, over 200 appearances and finishing our 7th all-time top goal scorer, it is tough to take, and he will be very, very difficult to replace, in my opinion. Of course, he was signed from Halifax Town in 2014. Signed, of course, by Ian Holloway, the best day's work he ever did as manager of our club. I love Greggers, that's no secret. A lot of us love him. A few, over the last year or so, a little bit not hating on him, but saying he don't score enough goals. And maybe, but I think in a team where he's going to get more chances, he's going to score more goals. as I said, it's the worst kept secret in and around the den. I think a lot of us have known for a long time that he's going to be leaving. I don't think the club helped that situation. I don't know if they're trying to force his hand, but they come out earlier on in the season and said, you know, we've offered Lee Gregory a lucrative deal to stay, and we're going to wait his reply. And obviously the reply never came. And the last game of the season, or just before it, Neil Harris announced that he would be leaving. It was brilliant to see when he left the pitch at Wigan, what he meant to the manager and the other players. You know, Steve Morison called him back for a little hug. Neil Harris greeted him on the touchline. I think Sean Williams and James Meredith both went in for a little high five. And his work ethic is everything that we know and need as Millwall fans. You know, I've seen some people online saying, oh, you let him leave for free. Well done, that's clever. Listen, we paid 400 grand for the man, so that's less than 100 grand a year over the 5 years that he's been here, and he's been a terrific servant. He wants to go back up north. He started a young family, and he's got his missile when he's here, and which, as we all know, can happen. I see someone say online, just get rid of your missus, problem done. But obviously it doesn't always work like that. It worked for me, it might work for the man who said it, but it doesn't work for everyone. So he goes back up north. Strong rumours linking him to Stoke. He hasn't signed for anyone as of yet, but I can tell Stoke fans they're going to get a hell of a player. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all. 30 years old, he'll be nearly 31 by the time the season starts, and he's never tested himself at any other team professionally. He played twice for Mansfield. I don't even know what league they was in when he did. He's only ever played for us. One last payday, fair play to him. Go up north, be closer to where you need to be, and have one last pop, maybe getting promotion with Stoke next year. Who knows? All the best, Greggers. I just want to say on a final note of that, I will fight any man, woman or child that dare boo him on his return to the den. So next up was Tom King, also 5 years at the club, signed in 2014 from Crystal Palace, but made only 11 appearances in that 5 years at the club. Of course, notably, most of those appearances would have been in our cup run, which saw us play against Spurs at White Hart Lane. He only made one mistake in his entire run in the team when Jordan Archer was injured, and that was when we was already 5-0 down at Spurs. He let the 6 go in, so it didn't matter. For me, Tom King now, 24 years old. Personally, I'd keep him and have him as backup for Martin. But he needs games. He's 24. He's not getting any younger. We've had a lot of these players that have been around the club, younger, getting older. Aidan O'Brien's another one. Fred's another one. James Brown's another one. These players are all in their early to mid-20s now. They need to be playing football. I don't think Tom King was given a fair crack at the whip. And, I don't blame him at all. I don't know whose decision it was for him to leave. But as I said, I would have kept him as number 2 to Dave Martin. But he's going to leave the club. It's a shame again, because to me, the way he comes across and the things he says, he seems like he wants to be at the club, and he genuinely cares about the club. But he isn't, he's off, and fair play to him. All the best, Kingy, in your next adventure. Honestly, there's been bombs dropping all over the gaff over this last week. Lee Gregory leaves, the last Avengers, the last series of Game of Thrones, Tom King goes, and then Conor McLaughlin, a player I really rate, goes and announces via his Instagram that he also will be leaving the club. And again, disappointing for me. He said on his Instagram account, after a very good start at Millwall, it has been a difficult couple of years, and I'm going to leave the club and wish everyone there all the best. A Northern Irish international, a good player, versatile, can play right back, can play centre back. I don't think he was given enough of a fair crack, and someone called me up, and I think it was 8 days, saying, what are you talking about? He had a good fair run at right back. He did, but I don't feel he did a lot wrong to get dropped. Conor McLaughlin showed me as well at the end of the season that he can play at centre half, good footballer, good on the ball, and as you know, that's what I like. It's a shame to see him go, but again, these players, people go, oh, why is he leaving and why is he moaning? And a very good point raised by Nick Hart at Tongue. I see him put out a very good tweet where he said, you've got to understand that these players, there's more that goes on behind closed doors. They've got personal lives. It might not be everything that's going on the pitch. There could be things that we don't know about, and we don't often take that into consideration when considering footballers' decisions in their careers. That was obviously what Nick was saying was based around Sean Hutchinson, and I'll quickly get onto that he hasn't been in and around the team. And, people were asking questions why he had the random freak injury where he cut his leg while putting his bins out. And then towards the end of the season, ended up in hospital. So, towards the end of the season, people were saying he's fit and why isn't he playing? And he must be one of those players that is causing unrest in the dressing room. I can tell you Sean Hutchinson isn't that type of man, and he definitely won't be causing unrest in the dressing room. So Harris has confirmed that Sean Hutchinson is one of the players that he'd also like to keep. But Conor McLaughlin's gone. I'm gutted. All the best, Conor, and I really think you'll stick up a few people at your next club. And then next up, of course, Fred Onyedinma. I don't even think he's on any sort of social media, but the gaffer didn't fuck around and announced it for him that he will be leaving the club during the summer. This is a very, very strange one. Fred, obviously a product of our youth academy, but again, he's 22 years old and he seems to be going around in circles in his career, in my opinion. Sending him out to Wickham, looks like he's going to be brilliant, bring him back, doesn't get the chance, doesn't make the grade. Let's have it right. I think Wickham sent him back this time around because they was having difficulty paying his wages, or just all wages in general. I can't imagine he's on ridiculous sort of dough. But he came back, and when he came back, Harris buried himself and said, Fred's been unplayable in training. And then obviously when we were struggling bad and we was devoid of any ideas or any creativity on the pitch, people were calling for Fred. I was one of them, and me along with probably a lot of the others that were calling for him to come back into the squad know that he's not the finished article, but pace frightens people. People that aren't afraid to run at defences directly, straight at them, straight through the middle. Don't fuck around, just do it. That frightens defenders, especially big, airy, old defenders in the Championship. So Fred wasn't given his chance, and it's strange because the point when Harris said Fred's been unplayable in training, to the point where he directly named Fred when asked why he wasn't in the squad and what the problem was the other week. There's been a breakdown in relationships somewhere there along the way. And, Harris is saying, I want these players out of the club that don't want to play for the club. I don't think they don't want to play for the club. I think they're just getting a little bit frustrated with the opportunity they're getting to play for the club, and they're not getting it, and maybe they're getting pissed off that, other players around them. I mean, look, let's use Tom Elliott as an example, and I don't want to keep slagging Big T off because he does try his best. But when we are struggling like fuck, and it's clear we've got no ideas and nothing on the bench to change a game, we've got Tom Elliott and Steve Morison both sitting there. Okay, you can understand why Morrow's there, but don't have Tom Elliott on the bench as well. You're not, bring one centre forward if need be. Have Fred, and you've got to at least have Fred on the bench to be a different idea, or even Scalak. You can understand why these players get frustrated. I think it's a shame that Fred's leaving the club, but in my personal opinion, I think it's definitely in his best interest for himself to move on. So cheerio, Fred. All the best. I ain't got to learn how to say your surname no more. So there you go, those 4 players have already or will definitely be leaving the club. Ironically, it's 4 players I absolutely definitely would have tried to keep hold of. Whether it's their decision or whether it's the club's decision, as I said, I've just covered the thing with favouritism and Harris. But again, in Harris's defence, I will have to show both sides of the coin on this channel. There is a lot that goes on at a training ground, behind closed doors. These people, as I've just said as well, these people are human. So sometimes tempers can get flared, personalities will clash, and it doesn't always work out. So in Harris's defence, Steve Morison has now come out and give a very frank interview to London News Online. So I'm going to directly quote what he said. He hasn't named players directly again, but he has confirmed that there definitely is an issue. Morison says, "Excuse my French, but people need to get their heads out of their asses and realise we have got the second worst budget in the league. As the manager has alluded to, there has been a lot of crap going on this year. What I would say is it has been a minor miracle that we've stayed up. For every single player in the dressing room, it will be the biggest learning curve of their career. If I said certain things, then people's careers would be over. It hasn't been all plain sailing this year. He has had a lot to deal with, more off the pitch than on it. The manager's been very clear on his thoughts about it. I'm sure he'll get it right in the summer, and I'm sure the club will be better next year." So make of that what you will. Well, you have to make of it what you will. It's pretty clear that there is, as Harris confirmed, there's unrest in the dressing room. Morison has backed the manager. So not only is there unrest in the dressing room, there's clearly a divide in the dressing room. I have got a very good idea of who he's talking about, but I'm not going to say who he's talking about. But one thing is for sure, every single one of those players that Steve Morison and Neil Harris has been talking about absolutely have to go, because even if they manage to resolve the situation, it's like when for example, if you cheat on someone, you're going out of them and they take you back, it's never really the same. They might want a little bit of revenge, or there'll always be an underlying issue there. I don't know. I've never cheated on anyone because I'm an angel, but listen, there is serious problems in that dressing room at our club, and I don't think it's a bad thing it's out in the open. It was obvious something wasn't right, definitely from last season where he was, as Harris said after the final game of the season. We finished 8th in our first season back in the Championship with pretty much the same squad. So the only thing that possibly could have changed along the way there was the players' attitude. So let's have it out in the open. It's done now. Let's get it cleared out and let's get it right going forward for next summer and get things back to how they used to be. Look, there's the den there. Fucking beautiful. What a sight. So let's quickly cover players in so far. There's only been one, of course. It is Alex Pearce, and it's what a signing. What a signing for us. A brilliant player, came in on loan, and he very quickly become a firm fan's favourite. He was almost an immediate replacement for Sean Hutchinson. And listen, if next season we can keep hold of Jake Cooper and we have them three as our centre-halves, to pick from, I'll be one very happy man. Our back line isn't a problem for me at all. As I said, I would have kept King as understudy for Dave Martin. You've got Marlon Romeo right back with maybe now Danny McNamara coming in and pressing in, which again I'd like to see. I haven't seen a great deal of McNamara, but the only way he's going to improve is by being in and around that first team squad. And I don't want him to be left to rot until he's 25 before he starts getting on the bench. Bring him in nice and early. Start grooming him to be Marlon Romeo's long-term understudy / replacement. Then, of course, at left-back we've got Murray Wallace and Shane Ferguson. I'm happy with that. I'm completely happy. For me, the problems are further up the pitch, but before we get onto that, Alex Pearce, a great signing, a free transfer, perfect for us. We know what he can do. Let's just hope he don't get Ben Marshall syndrome, but I don't think he will. He came in and it proved, I think he only played 12 times for us, but he was captain. He's a leader. He seemed like he'd been at Mill for years. The way he was performing, the effort he was putting in, the look on his face, you can just tell. You can just tell. He waddles fun. He looks like he shit his pants and he needs to go to the dressing room and change him. If we watch him run, he waddles, but a great player, a brilliant signing for us, and long may he reign as Mill captain. So let's quickly look at the transfer rumours of the players that could possibly be coming in. There isn't many, but it is very early on in the season, so hold your horses. I'll just say, if you are on Twitter, then the only people I rely on are good sources for transfer rumours, because you see loads, and you see some people going, oh look, we're going to sign this geezer from Man United, and it's come from a Twitter account that's got 12 followers. Richard Cowley, John Kelly, Jake Sanders, they're very good Twitter accounts and they're very reliable sources. So keep an eye on them three, and if you see any of them three say something, it's likely to happen. On the back of that, Richard Cowley has confirmed that Millwall are definitely not interested in Tom Eaves. The Gillingham striker, 6'7", of course, is going to be out of contract this summer, and I think that's a shame. I haven't seen loads of Tom Eaves, and people say we can't sign a 6'7" centre forward because we'll just play the long ball again. I've got to say it, and I'll say it again. Tom Eaves, as a League One top scorer, is the absolute best that we can hope for, I think. I don't think we're going to have money again in the summer. I think we've proved that already with Alex Pearce, and also another transfer that I'm going to get onto in a minute. But I think it's a shame. I think we should be after Tom Eaves. And I'm not saying he's the answer, but he's definitely better than Tom Elliott, and he's definitely a player that scored a lot of goals in the league just below ours. Other than that, these days of going to non-league and signing Lee Gregory from Halifax Town or signing Steve Morison from Stevenage, it's very difficult these days. Prices have gone up. Not just the price of bread and milk, prices of footballers have gone up, and it's, social media these days puts players in the shop window a lot more than it would have done, and it's very, very difficult to now find that bargain. So Tom Eaves, for me, as a free transfer and scored a lot of goals in League One for a team that's up the road and he's clearly settled in the area, wouldn't have been a bad signing. But Richard Cowley's confirmed that we are definitely not in for him. Just finally, the last transfer rumour hasn't come from any of my good free sources, so I've sort of killed myself there a little bit. But Josh Morris, he's been heavily linked with a move away from Scunthorpe. He's out of contract. The left-footed winger has scored 33 goals in something like 90 games for Scunthorpe, so 1 every 3 for a winger is not bad at all. I like him. We need pacey left wingers, and I'll go back to, we nearly signed Joe Lolly, who's ended up getting player of the year at Forest. So again, I feel for Neil Harris there that we didn't get the Joe Lolly deal over the line. But Morris is one. Listen, he's free transfer, so he's definitely within our budget, and that's no disrespect to our club, but we do like to look for those free transfers. So he's one I'll be willing to take a chance on at 27 years old. Good, pacey player. As you may have remembered, he played against us in the playoffs a couple of years ago, and I thought he caused us problems. Good at set pieces. I'd definitely be happy to sign Josh Morris, but as I say, that's just a rumour. I can't tell you whether it's true or whether it is not. So that's going to be your lot for this mid-week roundup show. It was a little bit impromptu, a little bit off the cuff. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's gone on for far too long, and I've got to wrap it now, because if you follow my Instagram story, you'll see that I've got some new lights for the set, and I'm going to end up like Rodders in the Tifa 3 episode from Only Fools and Horses if I ain't careful. I will probably be back at some point. I was looking to have a little bit of time off, but if these transfer rumours, players in, players out, and people slagging people off online, I'll be all over it. See you soon. Please subscribe to Lions TV. Come on, you Lions.